So the question that I'm going to be answering over the next few weeks is whether or not science fiction movies provide a general benefit to society. The plan is to review my stance, to discuss what science fiction is, to look at its historical context, to answer whether or not it's in pop culture, and one positive theme of the genre. My stance overall is that nothing is all good or all bad. But I do believe that science fiction offers more good to society than it does bad. We're going to keep in mind the social diamond throughout this discussion. So what is science fiction? First of all, it's the object in the cultural diamond. A broad definition for this discussion is that it's movies that include superheroes that have plots on other planets, or as dictionary.com says, draw imaginatively on scientific knowledge. Historical context is really important when considering something like this. It's a social world reference in the diamond. Lately, we've seen a fear of and fight for the other, that I put into air quotes here. This fear of the others has fueled an authoritarian populist movement we've seen in Brexit and the election of Trump and Marine Le Pen in France. Terrorist attacks have kind of fueled this fear of the other, and the fight for the other we've seen in the LGBT issues that have kind of hit a boiling point recently and forced us all to think about how to include everybody into our society kind of as a whole. Is science fiction pop culture? We're going to think about the receiver in the diamond here. What is pop culture? It's for the people, by the people. Science fiction is definitely for the people. There's not much of an educational hurdle to enjoy one of these movies. Is it by the people, though? Possibly not. It's definitely, as a Marxist would consider, part of this cultural industry and made for profit for sure. It's widely consumed. 6 out of 10 of the highest grossing films are science fiction movies, and that netted about $10.5 billion in ticket sales. I do believe that it brings cultures together, as evidenced by the fact that 8 billion ticket sales coming from the top 10 science fiction movies were from international box offices. One great thing about science fiction that I love is this inclusion theme that runs throughout many of the movies. It made me think of the Will and Grace article that we read, and how they asked if or mentioned that pop culture can either be a social catalyst or it can be a measuring stick, and either way, if it's a positive theme, I think it's a good thing. Some evidence that science fiction does include this idea of inclusion, and one is Star Trek, the original series, had the first ever interracial kiss. X-Men movies were all about protecting mutants because they were different than the rest of society and trying to find a way to include them. Captain America: Civil War, the plot for that movie was about not having to register people just because they're different than you and not being afraid of them. So definitely a great theme of inclusion. I hope you'll consider that as you're thinking about whether or not science fiction does indeed have a positive role in society.